what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I have my review for Thinner by Stephen King, writing under the name of Richard Bachman. So, as I said, this is Stephen King's book under Richard Bachman. This is one of his Bachman books, and I think it's the shortest of the Bachman books I've seen so far, other than maybe Rage. I don't know if Rage was shorter than this because I never got a chance to read it. This was not my favorite book by any means. I don't know how I feel about it. Basically, this follows a man named Bill who is very overweight. He's like, well, I say very overweight. They say he's that, but he's like 250 pounds, which I don't consider to be very overweight because I know people who weigh that much and are completely muscled and they are perfectly fine. I think that's one thing to take away from this is the fact that they think a 250-pound man is 100% overweight, so whatever. But basically, after getting into a accident that then basically charges him with vehicular manslaughter when he kills a older woman by accident, Bill, following the court proceedings, starts rapidly losing weight by magic, it seems like. He doesn't understand what's happening. Everybody thinks that either he's sick or he's dying, and Bill starts to think that there might be something to do with maybe the family of the woman that he accidentally killed, and he thinks that there's some curse placed upon him, and he's basically trying to figure out over the course of the story, for one, if that is the case, and then two, if it is the case, how to fix it. So honestly, I did give this a 3-star. I feel like some of the things I did like about it were honestly like the entire concept of the plot. This is very much a situation where I feel like the concept is great, the execution, not so much. So the idea, I think, of a character who is going through this really rough time, is having this happen to him, and he believes he has this curse placed upon him and wants to reverse it, is a really cool concept by itself. And I do feel like that overall the ending was actually really satisfactory in terms of how everything pans out. I don't want to say what it is, obviously, but I'm just gonna say it's pretty cool how things kind of come around. And the writing is pretty similar to what I've seen with other Bachman books and other King books, so it feels very similar. The modern setting, I think, really with this one made it the best Bachman book I've read so far, because many of King's other Bachman books he's had have been kind of out there and kind of weird to where I feel like I couldn't quite grasp the material as well. So this one definitely is the more favorite of the Bachman books. However, I have a lot of dislikes with this, and I will say that a lot of my dislikes are because of the fact that this was very much a product of its time. There's a lot of slurs in terms of the fact that there is a mention of the N-word with the hard R. It is reserved to one specific character. It is only used by one specific character, and it is understandable to me because that character is a bit of a jerk. So it makes sense why that character was reserved to having that language, but that is a part of the story and I want to make that known. There also is a slur that is involved with the Romani people, as they are a massive influence in this story, and it made me very uncomfortable to read that multiple times. On top of that, there's a lot of stereotypical notes made about the Romani people in terms of the fact that they're swindlers, they're con men, all these things. Again, this is very much, I think, a product of its time because those are things you would not really hear so much anymore in this day and age. But back in the 80s, it was very much a time where you could say that stuff and not really have any consequences. So keeping that in mind, those are involved in this. I don't like them. I'm very uncomfortable with them. But I understand they also are part of the time that this was published in. There's also a lot of sexual innuendos and a lot of very sexually graphic things that I think that if it had been done to a lesser degree, I wouldn't have had as much of a problem with it. But it was like just so in your face about a lot of it that I just was really uncomfortable. Like, I'm fine with like sex scenes, I'm fine with, you know, like very intimate settings and intimate things happening, but it was so much in this book that I was just baffled, and I was getting to the point where I was really uncomfortable. It reminded me actually of this thing that I saw not too long ago. Somebody had said something where when it comes to writing sex scenes and it's a man that's writing it, it's so much more uncomfortable because you're imagining a man going through and thinking of the act of having sex with somebody and like how dirty and degraded it seems. But like when a woman writes it, it's much more intimate and like romantic, and that's a lot more appealing to a lot of people. That whole thing really was brought up with this to me because, like, I honestly felt so uncomfortable reading some of these sexual graphic scenes because I was like, oh my god, somebody actually sat here and, like, imagined this such a degrading scene to happen? Ugh. But again, thinking on the time period of this book, this was when King was massively in alcohol and drugs. And so it's not surprising that this was involved in this, but I also was still very uncomfortable. Another thing I really didn't seem to care for with this was the overall pacing. I feel like that while the timeline of things was not slow, I felt like I was really dragging through this book, and I think it was because there was a lot of unnecessary things brought up or very repetitive things that I felt like just really kind of slowed things down to like a snail's pace, and I wasn't here for it. And then I think one of the most important things that I find when it comes to Stephen King books is the characters. I didn't care about a single one. I didn't care about the main character at all. I didn't like him. I kind of felt like he got what he deserved. So overall, like I said, 3 stars. It was okay. I think, again, like I said, it's very much concept was great, execution, not so much. And I feel like that while this is my more favorite of the Bachman books, that's not saying much because I don't really seem to care for many of the Bachman books. I know that I've rated a couple of them like a 4-star, but honestly, like, they're not nearly as good as I think as I've seen from a lot of King's work when he writes under his own name and when he's a solo writer, because we all know how I feel about The Talisman and Black House. If you have thoughts on Thinner that you would like to share with me that are non-spoilerly for other people who are looking to read this book, please feel free to let me know down in the comments below. I would be very open to hear anyone, especially that has an opposing view on this with me and has anything they would like to say on it. But that's all I can say about Thinner. Thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.